In this course, we're going to build our navigation menu, which helps the viewers navigate through our page. And we're going to make this menu stand out and indicate that it is, in fact, a menu. And we'll do that with effects. There's regular effects, which we can apply to our elements and our groups, and there are also hover effects, which we can use to make the elements behave in a certain way when our viewer hovers them. We'll also specifically dive deeper into hover effects on buttons, as they can be configured in a different way. Let's start with the regular effects. So, depending on the type of element I have selected, there are different effects I can apply to it. Let's add a white rectangle to our page and give it some rounding. I know it's the same color as our background and you can't really see it yet, but just bear with me. Now, in the element panel, I'm going to navigate to the effects tab, where I can see all of the available effects for this element. Let's enable a shadow, and there we go. Now you can see the elements on my canvas. Let's change the settings to make the shadow a bit less intrusive. There are a lot more effects to choose from, like grayscale, blur, blend mode, and ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, let's do that.
What are you doing?
Okay, I'm going to make a quick detour here, but it's going to be useful. Do you remember the dancers I made sticky in the last course?
Yeah.
So instead of making them move when I scroll, I'm going to make them move when my viewer moves their mouse.
Okay, sure.
Let's select the group containing our dancers and remove the sticky positioning via the element settings panel. Now, I'm going to head over to the effects panel and select the mouse movement effect. I can now set horizontal and vertical movement speed. Positive numbers make the elements move along with my mouse, and negative numbers make it move against my movements. Also remember that these values are very sensitive, so a low number can already have a large effect. I'm gonna set mine to... wait. Actually, I can also add this effect to all of the dancers individually, so they all move in a slightly different direction. Let's do that. So one on the left gets horizontal -10, middle gets 5, right gets -4, and let's preview, see what happens. There. Doesn't that look great?
It's almost as if they're really dancing.
Just what I was going for. Okay, back to the script. Let's get to hover effects, because these can make my effect show only when my viewer hovers their mouses. Mice?
Mice is correct. Yeah.
When my viewer hovers their mice over them. This effect works great to indicate elements that can be further interacted with, like our navigation menu. So while the white shape forms the background of our navigation menu, I'm going to fill it with text boxes that are going to change color when hovered to indicate that they're clickable. So I'll add the first text box and name it Carnival in Rio, which is the first chapter of our page. Now, in the effects panel, notice how I can switch between regular effects and hover effects. And in the hover effects tab, I've got much more effects to choose from. I can underline the text, make it change color, add a stroke, and much more. I can even make my text move a bit if I wanted to. We're not going to go bonanza though. I'm just going to click the text color option and change the color of my text to, let's do yellow. Notice how there's also a preview section at the top of my effects tab, which I can use to see the hover effect I just applied. I can also set a duration for the hover effect to run, so it's currently taking 250 milliseconds or a quarter of a second to turn from black to yellow. You can increase or decrease this duration if you like. A fun thing to note is that regular effects are also present here, and if I add a regular effect, it's also visible as a hover effect by default. So, for example, for the background shape in my navigation menu, the shadow is also visible when I navigate to the hover effects tab. I can disable it here, which will still show the effects when I'm not hovering, but it removes the shadow when I actually do hover the element. This creates a fun effect too. It's a bit misleading in our case, so I'll remove it again. Okay, so now we've got the hover effect applied to our first menu item. But there are more menu items, so I'm going to copy and paste the element and swap out the text. Notice that when I copied the element, the hover effect was also copied with it, so I don't need to reapply it again. If you'd already copied and pasted the element before, you can also right-click the element and select Copy Effect, and then right-click and paste the effect on my other elements. You can actually do the same with animations and styles. Very handy. Finish up by selecting all of the elements and grouping them together. I'll name my group Navigation Menu, And let's make it sticky to the top with a margin of 30 pixels to make sure it always stays in view when I scroll down the page. Buttons differ a bit from other elements in Maglr as they have hover states by default, so they automatically change color when my viewer hovers them. With my button selected, I can see a hover section in the element settings panel. And this allows me to change the color of the text, the background, and even the border of the button when someone hovers it. For me, it's set to switch to a green background when it's hovered. And I'm going to change my style collection because I actually don't want it to change color. I just want it to grow a little bit instead, so I'll change the hover state of my buttons to black again. Now, I'll add the grow hover effect with a factor of 1.1%, so it grows just a little bit. I'll copy and paste the effect to the other buttons of my page too. Okay, so we learned that there are different effects we can apply to our elements to make them stand out more. For example, we added a shadow to the background of our navigation menu and we made the dancers move along with our mouse movements. We also learned about hover effects and how we can use them to indicate that our elements can be interacted with. We added the items of our navigation menu and made them change color on hover. We also learned that if we duplicate elements, it also includes all of their settings like animations, effects, and interactions. And we can also copy and paste just the effects, animations, or styles to other elements. Finally, we learned that buttons have a specific hover state where we can change the colors of their text, backgrounds, and borders. So we've made this navigation menu now, but it doesn't actually work yet. So I can click a menu item, but nothing happens. So let's get them working in the next course.